Hello everybody! How you all doing? Ugh. Fair few in already, we've got 60 in already, that's pretty good. It's another warm day here. Let's see if all the sound's working. Can you all hear me okay? Can you hear the bass there? Can't hear bass? Should be bass coming through. No bass? Hold on. But you can hear the... Right, hold on. There's been an update on the XSplit. Let me just check that the... I bet the audio's switched. How's that? How's that now? That okay? Cool, yeah. Oh, it does my head in. You know when they when you get software updates. So I use XSplit for streaming, and earlier on today, well, just before, because I've like reset everything, and and there was an update, and I've been putting off doing the update for about 6 months because I know that every time I do an update, there's problems. So I did the update today, and then I thought, everything seems to be working fine, but obviously the audio, because I have to set it to the Yamaha there. So hold on. Yeah. So today I'm using the old Fender Precision. This is a 50s reissue. And although I mean it's a bit of a late 50s reissue, but it's actually a made in Mexico one, but it's really nice. But I've got flat wounds on it. So you know, you get that nice kind of old school tone. So it's yeah, really nice bass. They've got really wide necks on them. So I'll wait for a few more people to come in. But today I'm going to do a bit of a walking bass workshop. Some of you probably already have my walking bass course. If you have, I'm going to be going over quite a bit of stuff that I actually do in that. So apologies if it's too basic for you, but because I don't really want to be going into more advanced stuff. It's more to get people off the, you know, dip the toes in the water kind of thing. But you might learn something from it anyway, and I'll be taking questions after anyway. There's a sale on at the moment. It's the 9th anniversary of Talking Bass, so it's 9 years since we started. So it's. I always know what the age of it is, because you know it's easy to forget. But I started this at the same time as, well, my daughter was born, and then I started not that long afterward. You probably all know the story anyway. You know, I started up this because I didn't want to go away on tour. I didn't want to go off gigging, you know, away for long periods of time, which is what I'd been doing before. And I had to leave my little newborn daughter after 2 days, and I said to the missus, I said, I'm not doing this ever again. And I live on the Isle of Wight, so it's not exactly the kind of place that you're going to be doing vast amounts of gigs. Not ones that are going to pay the bills on a decent level anyway. So so I started up Talking Bass, and it was just to get some Skype lessons, you know, just so that I could get some students, because I used to teach in a music college through the 90s and early 2000s. So I thought, I'll start doing that again. And so the YouTube channel was basically just to, you know, show people how I teach, and you know, and it did okay. I got, you know, some students, and then it just started to build up and build up and build up. 9 years later, here we are. So it's you know, gone from strength to strength, and you know, all the websites, you know, doing well. So yeah, so I'm having a celebratory sale for that over at the website. So if you've not bought any of the courses yet and you're interested in it, or you want to get some more, bit of a bargain at the moment, so there's 30% off, so you can get the one of those. There's plenty to choose from, one of which is the Simple Steps to Walking Bass. So I'm going to be talking about some of that here. I'm hoping I'm not going to cover too much of it because, I don't want to cover everything that I talk about in the course. But the course is massive. The course is, like probably about, I don't know how many hours there are, about 12 hours of video, and there's, hundreds of pages of stuff to work through. So I don't think I'm going to be able to get through it all here. Like I say, I'm just going to wait for a few more minutes while we get a few more people in, because you know what happens, any of you that have seen my live streams before, we get about halfway through and everybody starts asking about all the stuff that I covered at the beginning. So I'll make sure that the people that that wanted to get here in time are here. So we've got the 9th anniversary sale. We had the survey, so I did an email survey about what the next course is going to be. So just in case anybody didn't catch the follow-up email, the next course is going to be a groove trainer course. That was the choice. There was a choice of, was it 5 that I had, or 4? So the choices were applied harmony for bass. So I was going to do a bigger harmony course, which I've got all planned. Creative rhythm, because everybody keeps asking me about a rhythm course, which, we've got the sight reading course, and that really covers, or reading course, and that covers rhythm as far as you want to take it, pretty much. But, I'll do one based on rhythm. So there was the creative rhythm one. There's a walking one where I'm going to break down a lot of walking bass lines, provide through very standard chord progressions, just a bunch of walking bass lines that you can learn. So that was that, and then there was the Groove Trainer, and then Ear Training Volume 2. The Groove Trainer one is going to be a set of either 50 or 60, probably 60 grooves that I work through with you. So it works through from incredibly simple ones through to not advanced, because I'm going to do it in several volumes, but they're going to get progressively more difficult. The idea being that after you've done the beginner bass guitar course and the basic fundamentals course, I needed something to kind of move into as practice. Because I always end up just saying, well, just learn as many bass lines as you can. Just go out there and work them out by ear, download the music, whatever it is. But just go and learn as many bass lines as you can. That was always the follow-up to that. And then the next follow-up course would be either Simple Steps to Sight Reading or Chord Tone Essentials. But I did think it'd be worth providing a load of bass lines that you can work through. Now, if you're a reader or you're learning to read, it'll work alongside that really well, so you can actually read through it. I include tab as well for those of you that don't read. It just starts out with single note bass lines, incredibly simple. And through each one, I'll be covering various aspects of technique, and it's going to be very progressive working through. So that's going to be the next one. I've almost written all of the bass lines for it now. I'm going to provide all the backing tracks and all of that stuff. There's probably, there'll be about maybe 80 and 90 lessons in it. So that'll be coming out within the next couple of months. So that's that. Before we start, I'll just see if there's any questions up at the top. Okay, that was all the sound problems there. Nice maple neck on the bass. Yep. What do you prefer, a 4 or a 5 string? I prefer a 4. I've had to use a 5 string for years, doing various, you do like theatre shows and stuff like that, and you always need a 5 string for that because they often write parts for 5 string. You can get around it with a 4, but it's always been a thing that I've had to use, but I prefer 4. I'm a 4 stringer at heart, so, I've got plenty. I've got a couple of 5s, and I've always had 5s, and I've had a couple of 6s. I've never had a 7-string bass, but 4 is my fave. I feel a lot more comfortable reading on it as well. Somebody was asking me about Anthony Joshua, Alexander Usyk. Yeah, I'll be watching that as soon as I get back. I'm a Brit, so I suppose I'm going for Anthony Joshua, but I'm not a big Anthony Joshua fan, and I love Alexander Usyk, and I think Usyk's going to win. So unless unless Joshua just knocks him clean out. But yeah, I'm it's weird. I'm kind of on the fence with that one. Either way, I'm not that fussed. But I think it'll be Usyk. Are you going to talk about walking bass lines? Yes, I am. Okay, so we've got people in from everywhere here. So we've got 171 in right now, it seems. So I will start. So the other thing is, so I've got, do you take private lessons? No, I don't. Not anymore. I used to do, but not anymore. I just don't have time. So for a start, like I said, I'm using this bass. And if you're interested in how, about the sound that I'm getting with this, I'm using flat wounds on it. So it gets a lot more of that. It's got more of a thudding kind of tone. You know, it's when you've got round wounds. I mean, round wounds are fine for walking, but for this, I just thought I'd, just go a little bit more dull. And I would use this. So this is a Nordy mute, which gives you an even more kind of dead sound. You know, it's really thudding. But it's really difficult to hear on YouTube videos. You know, when people are watching it on a phone and stuff, it doesn't cut through enough. So I've kind of stopped using it for that kind of stuff. You know, you can hear that, but if I played something like that with that on. You know, it's a little bit dead. Also, I'm going to be using a backing track for this. I'm going to be using Autumn Leaves as an example. Good old Autumn Leaves that everybody uses. And I'll tell you why they use it in a minute. But the backing track is going to sound like this. Let's just make sure that we've got the sound okay for that. So let me know if you can hear that. So that's the backing track. If at any point you think the backing track's too loud, just let me know. Volume's a bit low. Do you mean the bass or do you mean the other backing track? But anyway, I'll get started on this stuff. So we've got 189 in now. That's pretty good. I think 200's the record for me. So I've made a few notes on this just so I've got something to go along with. So there's a few things worth bearing in mind, right, when you're going to start playing walking bass lines. Because for a start, what's a walking bass line? Okay, so a walking bass line is it's a bass line usually played in quarter notes, crotchets, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's a melodic line connecting chords. So if we've got the chords, C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7. But you all know that because you're here to learn about walking bass lines. But that's a walking bass line. So the thing is, when you first start trying to learn walking bass lines, it can be too pressurizing. It can be really, because everybody says you've got to improvise walking bass lines. But the problem is, if you don't really know much about walking bass lines, you've not played any, not learned a walking bass line, I mean, what the hell are you supposed to play? And I faced this because I'd never played walking bass lines until I went to music college. I was a metalhead and I played rock stuff, I played progressive rock, I even played classical music, but I'd never really got into jazz. As soon as I started at music college, it's jazz. It's all jazz. It's jazz, 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 jazz. And so the first thing they do is they get you, I was in a band, they put you in band ensembles. And I remember being in the first one and having to play through things like Autumn Leaves and Stella by Starlight and All the Things You Are and all those kind of things. So they give you the chord progression. Everybody's playing, you've got a bunch of sax players and trumpet players and drummers and keyboard players and all these kind of people that have all played a bit of jazz before, but not me. So I was like, what the hell am I supposed to do? Now, luckily, the band leader helped me out a lot and gave me a few little tips for how to just get by. Now, I wouldn't necessarily advise using I won't even go through it, the hack that he had for me, because it works, but it's a bit risky. But I managed to start using some of the kind of theory knowledge that I'd amassed into kind of making my own way. And to be honest, I've never really sat and practiced walking bass lines on, away from a band. I learned it on the fly, playing with people, and then playing, just doing that more and more and more. And I kind of figured out, oh yeah, you can use arpeggios, you can connect arpeggios, and all these things that I was doing in other classes, I realized that I could use in the ensembles. So, and also a few little things that I did work on outside of that, like coming down arpeggios, instead of going up arpeggios, coming down from like an A, coming down an A minor. Which the first time I ever was up at this A here, and I thought, oh, I want to come down. That was like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Because you generally play arpeggios up. And then when you come back down, you kind of just follow the breadcrumbs coming back down. And so I was like, oh man, this is really difficult. So there are all these problems that we're having. But of course, then when you try explaining to somebody else how to do this, it's really difficult to explain. So the way that we're going to look at this is with a bunch of different... First of all, I'm going to explain a few things that are worth working on outside of, let's say, walking bass lines, or that walking bass lines will help with, but it is good to have them as a prerequisite. So one of the first things is knowing the notes on your neck, okay? Because usually what you're going to get is a chord progression. So, for instance, here we've got, let's bring it up, Autumn Leaves there, right? So that's Autumn Leaves, the chord progression to it. So if you were given that chord progression, this is somebody said, just play a walking bass line through that. Well, I mean, at the very least, you got to know where a C is. You got to know where an F is. You got to know where a B flat is, an E flat, an A minor, an A, D, G. You got to know where those notes are. So that's your first problem right there. If you don't know the notes on your neck very well, then it's going to be a problem, okay? So knowing the notes on your neck is important, but also playing walking bass lines will improve that. And I'll explain how you can do that in a minute. Other thing is chord tones. You really need to know your arpeggios. You need to know what the notes are in that chord. So again, looking at that chord progression, C minor 7, you have to know what you have there as material to use. It's not just about scales. Forget scales for now. It's about knowing what the notes are in that chord. Because at the end of the day, the main thing that we're doing in a walking bass line is outlining the chord progression. So outlining the chord is a key part of that. So you need to know your chord tones. You have to know the notes in the chord, which we do with arpeggios. So for those kind of chords, C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7, E flat major 7. You need to know your half diminished, A minor 7 flat 5, D7, G minor. So you need to know your arpeggios too. Now, you don't need to know vast amounts of arpeggios to get started. I mean, you can basically just learn the major 7, minor 7, dominant 7, and minor 7 flat 5, and that will get you through the majority of basic jazz chord progressions, because you can get rid of all the flat nines and all that kind of stuff. What you're really looking at is the core of the chord. So far we've got notes on the neck, chord tones, melodic devices. So when I say that, I mean connecting chord tones and seeing how you can do things around chord tones. So that can be scalar movement, as in working up through, actually working up with a scale, using approach notes, around those. So approach notes, passing notes. You don't necessarily have to know the language of that. You don't have to know that, oh, that's a chromatic approach note, that's a chromatic, auxiliary note, whatever. You don't necessarily have to know that, but you have to be able to observe how these things are working around chord tones, okay? So that's another thing that's worth knowing about. And also vocabulary. You just as you do with soloing and things like that, you do learn vocabulary for walking bass lines. There is a very common vocabulary used, and you can just tell if I play this. If I go from C minor 7 to F7, I mean that line, that's a C leading to an F. That's basically a lick. It's basically a way of getting from C to F in 4 notes. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so and there's a bunch of different ways that you might be able to do that. You could come down as well. So if I'm coming down from a C down to an F, you know, you can come down a scale. There's a bunch of different things that you can use, and learning them in different positions again. So not just knowing it across those 2 strings, but also knowing it coming up. You know, that each one of those bars there, each of those lines, you have to see them as individual, like I say, kind of like licks. It's a phrase, okay? So we're looking at that too. But the other thing that comes into play there is targeting. So you're also looking at targeting certain notes. You're seeing a journey. I've talked about this in some of the other YouTube videos, where the first 2 chords in that autumn leaves, C minor 7 to F7. You don't think, oh, I've got to play over C minor 7. What you do is you think it's C minor 7 to F7. You see a journey between the C and the F. You think, there's the C, there's the F. How am I going to get there using that C minor 7 vibe, right? So that's some of the things to be aware of. Some of the main key parts of learning about walking bass lines. But like I said, you've really got to learn the notes on your neck, and you've got to learn about chord tones. Out of all of that stuff, those are the 2 main ones. Learn your arpeggios and learning the notes on the neck. Now, the best way to approach learning walking bass lines, really, is to do it in a few stages. First of all, you want to just try playing through a chord progression, just single notes, just playing the root notes. Just getting used to seeing where these things are. You know how I said about you want to be targeting notes? Well, you're not going to be able to target the notes if you don't have if you can't see them, if you don't know where they are. So first things first, you just want to be able to play through the through the root notes. Also, beyond that, you want to play 2 feel. So that's basically just playing 2 notes in a bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're just playing that. Root and fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And that's a lot easier than, you know, you're not having to. You don't have the pressure. You can sit there and think, okay, well, I've got the root note. Remember what I said earlier? Learn where the root notes are first. You find the root note and just play the fifth. And most of these chords are going to have a standard perfect fifth. So you can just use that pattern if you want, you know, or below. Either a fifth below or a fifth above, okay? So that's the first thing to do, and I'll give you an example of this in a second. So we've got the 2 feel, and then you expand on the 2 feel, and then gradually you start building up your vocabulary, and it kind of it becomes a lot more organic and intuitive as you move on, and it kind of writes itself, the learning process, once you do that. But first things first is learning where those notes are. So we'll try that first. So I'm going to bring up that chord progression. So hopefully you can all see that well. Right, well, I'll move over here a bit. In fact, I'll move back a bit. So what you want to be able to do is maybe take a backing track. Now, I'm using Band in a Box for this. I've recorded some tracks in Band in a Box, or you can get iRealB, the app. You can anything that plays some kind of backing through a chord progression, and then you can just try playing along. So all we're going to do in this first example is play the root notes of those chords, and we're going to hold them for 4 beats. So I'll just show you that. And what you want to do is try limiting yourself, restricting yourself to an area, okay? So for this one, for this first example, let's just try staying down here in this low area, okay? So somewhere below the 5th fret. Obviously, there's going to be an E flat, so we're going to be able to go up as high as the 6th fret as well. So we'll move up there. And obviously, if you feel like it, you can branch out and maybe play the A up there, the D up there if you want. It's all about making choices, and that's one of the key parts to this. Improvising, which is basically what we're doing, is making choices. It's all about that. That's basically what improvisation is. You're making choices on the fly. So I'll just play through that. Let's take a slow, so 100 beats per minute. So really slow. And I'm just going to play the root notes. Okay. So you want to look at the first one. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Okay. So, looking at the C already. 3, 4, F. As soon as you play the note, look for the next one. So that's E flat, A, so I played that there, D. Looking ahead, G. I'm already looking at the next bar for the G. I'm already looking at a C and planning where it's going to be. There's an F, B flat. Notice how I've moved up a bit onto the G string, A, D. Look ahead, G. Maybe take the other G, A, D. Just single root notes, G, C. Looking ahead, you're thinking F and looking for where it's going to be. B flat. Look ahead for the E flat. Looking for an A now. Looking for a D. Looking for the G. F sharp. F. E. Up to the E flat. A. D. G. So, for some of you, that might have been too difficult because you might not know the notes on your neck well enough. And that tells you something. That tells you that you need to work on that. And that's why it's worth just working in one area. And the more you do this and the more you just try improvising that, it's basically testing you each bar. Each bar, you're looking ahead. You're thinking, okay, where's there an F? And you might make a mistake. And then you find the next one. Now, don't feel pressured to use a backing track. You can just try that without. So you can just think, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't even have to count. You just think C. Now look for an F. Okay, now B flat. Where's there a B flat? There's a B flat. Okay, E flat. I can play that up there, or I could play it there. Again, you're making choices. So another aspect of making choices. When you see C, a lot of you are just going to go for that C there at the 3rd fret of the A string. But you could have also gone for that C up at the 5th fret of the G string. That's your choice. That's an improvised choice. Okay? And then you think, okay, well, an F, you probably want to go for something that's fairly close. So if I was down at this C, the choice is kind of made, well, you can think up or down. That's the choice, isn't it? Am I going to go up or am I going to go down? Now, if you go up, you're going to go up to that F. And then you think, okay, B flat. Do I go up or down? If you go down, you're going to come down here. If you go up, you're going to come up here. Now, when you get up to here, really your choice is made for you if you're staying in this low position. You get to the B flat, you're going to come down to the E flat. Okay? And that's it. It's all about just making choices. And working through a chord progression like this is really good practice. Now, like I said, if you don't know the notes on your neck very well at all, you're going to... And if you can't even do that, if you can't do any of what we've just done there, you're going to have to pay a little bit more attention to learning the notes on your neck. And there is no way that you'll be able to go any further with learning walking bass lines if you can't get through that. Because when it comes to then adding more notes into there, if you're struggling to find where the root note is, you're going to have no chance, right? So that's your first exercise, right? Just playing through those notes. And like I said, you don't need to use a backing track. Just try it without to begin with. Then maybe try counting it along. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, counting your head. Up to an A maybe. Maybe an open D. That's a choice. Okay? Then try with the backing track. Now, that, for some of you, might be a month's worth of practice. You know, if you're not good at your notes on your neck, that's going to be a lot of practice. Now, if you can do that, okay, the next step is adding fifths in there. Now, before you add fifths in there, you've got to know what the notes are in the chord, because what we're going to be doing is picking the fifth of the chord. So this is where you have to almost immediately start looking at chord tones and looking at the arpeggios. So I'm not going to go into all the theory of chord construction and stuff. I've done that so much on YouTube. I mean, I've got so much stuff out there about chord tones and about chord construction. We'll just very quickly run through the 4 chord types that you get in this, and that's why Autumn Leaves is really good. There's two aspects to Autumn Leaves that make it really good for practicing walking bass lines. One is that you've got those 4 main chord types: minor 7, dominant 7, major 7, and minor 7 flat 5. And the other thing is that there's a lot of movement by fourth, as in, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Movement by fourth is very common in jazz standards, and you can learn a lot of these, use a lot of this vocabulary, these licks, for want of a better word, for moving between these chords, and you can use them a lot when it's all movement by fourth. So let's look at the next thing. So we need to learn the 4 basic arpeggios. I know a lot of you will already know these, but I'll just rip through them here on a C. Let's do it on a C. So let's work through them. Major 7. Okay, so many of you probably know a major triad: C, E, and G. Root, major 3rd, perfect 5th. Remember what type of 5th it is. And then all you do for a major 7 is add the major 7th up on the top from the C. So C, E, G, B flat. So that there is the 3rd fret of the A string, 2nd fret, 5th fret on the D string, and then the 4th fret on the G string. Root, major 3rd, perfect 5th, major 7. Okay? And it helps to be able to play them all over the place and know the sound of it. There's a major 7. It's like a major chord, but it's a bit more bittersweet. It's got that major 7 on the top. That's a major 7 chord. Dominant 7, so a C7. Same chord as the major 7, but we use the flat 7, the minor 7th in there instead of that major 7. So C, E, G, B flat instead of B natural. So 3rd fret A string, 2nd and 5th fret on the D string, and then the 3rd fret on the G string. And you'll know that chord. That's that bluesy kind of, the bluesy chord. So in a blues, they're all 7 chords. Dominant 7 chords, that is. So if you ever see a chord, G7, C7, D7, one of those, they are dominant 7 chords. Again, I'm probably preaching to the converted already. You probably already know these, but I need to be thorough. So we got a major 7 chord, a dominant 7 chord. Minor 7 chord is where we move on to the minor triad. So we've got a minor triad, C, E flat, and G. So for this one, we've got 3rd fret, 6th fret on the A string. Then we've got the G at the 5th fret of the D string, and the B flat up at the 3rd fret of the G string. So that's C, E flat, G, B flat, root, minor 3rd, perfect 5th, minor 7. Minor triad with a minor 7 on the top. Okay, so that's a minor 7, which sounds like this. And lastly, a minor 7 flat 5, which is also called a half diminished chord. So this is based on a diminished triad. So if you don't know a diminished triad, on a C, we would have C, E flat, and G flat. So we've got the flat 5 in there. It's the diminished 5th, which is why it's called a diminished triad. So that's your triad, and then we add the minor 7 up on the top. Hence, minor 7 flat 5. So think of the minor 7 chord we just played, but flatten the 5th. And that sounds like this. Okay, so it's a little bit more evil. Okay, so that's a minor 7 flat 5, and that's the 4 main chords that you really need to work on, chord tone wise. Major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, and minor 7 flat 5, and you need to be able to play those on any root note. So if I want an E minor 7 flat 5. Okay, A minor 7 flat 5. Okay, D7. Yeah, you can add the octave in if you want of the root note. And you can add the notes above as well. Don't feel restricted into playing them in a single box shape like that. Once you know the notes and you know what they are, you need to start moving outside of that box. So instead of just thinking of, for a C minor 7, C, E flat, G, B flat, Instead of just thinking of that, you need to look at, oh, we've got a B flat in it. Okay, there's a B flat there and a G flat and a G there. Okay, so you need to learn them all over the neck, but don't worry about that too much for now. You know, this is just the first step. Okay, so you want to learn the chord tones of those chords. So next exercise. So first exercise was just play single notes through that chord progression. Next up, play the arpeggios. Okay, now you don't have to worry too much about playing it to tracks and stuff like that. You can, which I'll show you in a sec, but all we need to do is look at it and think, okay, C minor 7, what's the arpeggio? F7. You know, you can play it where you want. B flat major 7. You know, I'm adding the octave there, but you can play it there, play it there, play it wherever you want. And there are different fingerings for it, but we'll just stick to that one for now. E flat major 7. I'm playing the E flat here at the 6th fret of the A string. A minor 7 flat 5. Remember that one? I'll play it here, starting on the 5th fret of the E string, so you can see that. D7, G minor 7. I'll just work through them a bit quicker now. G7, so it switches from a minor 7 to a dominant 7. And then it's the same chord progression for the next 4 bars. Oops. And then we have a repeat of those A minor 7 flat 5 D7. There's not that many chords to it really. G minor 7. Like I say, I'm going through this quicker, and then a repeat from the beginning. E flat major 7, A minor 7 flat 5, D7, and then don't worry too much about the 2 chords per bar because you're not going to get to play through, you know, just E flat major 7. Okay, so that's the chord tone. So you just need to work on your arpeggios and just learn how to play the arpeggios through there. Don't feel pressured into playing through them in time. You know, don't worry about playing them like. Don't worry about any of that. Just look at the chord and think, okay, what's the arpeggio? Even if you're like this. Yeah, that's the one. However you have to do it to get through, but eventually going through and through this, or round and round on this chord progression, just picking them out, it's going to just keep testing you. That's what this becomes. This chord progression becomes basically a testing. It's like a test. It's constantly just providing questions, like an exam. Play me a C minor 7. Play me an F7. Play me a B flat major 7. And gradually you'll be able to play them. You know, eventually once you've played through it quite a few times, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know that C minor 7. Oh yeah, I know that F7. Oh, I know that B flat major 7. I can play it there. I can play it there. You know, so it's just good for testing you. Once you can do that, and you can do that quite well, that's when you can play through with the track. And all I'm going to do is play through just ascending, because we've only got 4 notes for most of these. When it gets to the G minor 7 and it's got 2 bars, then you can go up and down. And obviously when you've got the 2 chords per bar, you just play single root notes. But let's have a listen to how that sounds. F7, D flat major 7, D flat major 7, 7 flat 5, D7, G minor 7, G7. Doing a little thing like that if you want to. It's kind of like a walking bass line. It's not really, but I mean, it does fulfill a few of the. Throwing myself off. D7. Just coming down the C minor. Okay, so I messed around a little bit on some of those just because it was repeating. But you get the idea. Just play through the arpeggios, just going up them, just ascending, okay? Now, obviously, I mean, you might think that sounds like a walking bass line, which I suppose it does because it's in quarter notes. But the problem there is that it's all ascending. It's like balloons rising all the time. You've just got this. There's no connectivity to it. There's no consistency. There's no continuity. There's no smoothness to the line. There's no journey. There's no gradual ascent, and there's no contour to it. It's just it's just an exercise. But if you were if you were put in that situation I was put in that time where I was at music college when I didn't know anything about playing walking bass lines, that would kind of do, they might not say, oh, well done, Mark, that was a great bass line, but it'd be like, at least you'd get through, rather than, because I have seen some people, I mean, I won't mention any names, but it was, I did once see a band, and none of them knew anything about playing jazz, and they were asked to play a jazz tune, and the bass player ended up playing, let's say, if it was Autumn Leaves, it would have been like this. Just straight quarter notes on the actual root notes because they didn't actually know how to play walking bass lines. So, this is better than that, but it's not perfect. So, we now know the chord tones. And what you really need to know about those chord tones, about those arpeggios, is the actual intervals in there. So, you need to know that on that C minor 7, we've got that root note, we've got the C. You've got the minor third. So, if we're going to play a third in there, it's going to be minor. It's got that perfect fifth. If we're going to play the fifth, it's going to be the normal perfect fifth. If you play a seventh, which you probably won't, but it's got the minor seventh in, okay? You need to know the intervals, the intervallic construction of those arpeggios. If you don't know anything about intervals, you need to learn about intervals, okay? So it's always working back to the holes in your knowledge, okay? As soon as you find something like this and you start thinking, man, this is too much for me, I don't know what he's talking about. He's talking about perfect fifths and minor thirds. Go back and learn about intervals. As soon as you find that there's something where it's a hole in your knowledge, you need to go back and work on that. Intervals are the most important thing that you can really learn in theory terms and they're the perfect foundation because as soon as you learn about intervals, you learn about how music is constructed. Everything is measured in intervals. If you know about intervals, you'll be able to work through all of this stuff a lot easier. If you don't know about intervals, things are going to get a bit iffy, right? So, intervals, then arpeggios. So, we now know that if you know the chord construction, you'll know which type of fifth you can use. And it just so happens that on the minor 7, the dominant 7, and the major 7, each of those, minor 7, major 7, dominant 7, and the minor 7, it's all perfect fifths in there, so on a major 7 chord, we got that perfect fifth. On a dominant 7, we got that perfect fifth. On a minor 7, we've got that perfect fifth, okay? Minor 7 flat 5, well, it says it in the title, it's a flat 5. So the only one you have to think about here when we play root fifth patterns is going to be the minor 7 flat 5, when you're going to have to play a flat 5. So a normal perfect fifth, obviously, you can see it as a pattern, really. I mean, C and a G there, you can see that little box shape. It's like upper string and 2 frets, okay? That's your fifth, okay? Good old power chord. So that's the perfect fifth, and you've also got that fifth. If you take it down an octave, you got that one down there, so you can play the fifth below, which is just the same fret on the next string below, okay? So you can go up to the fifth or down to the fifth. Whatever it is, it's the G. On a C chord, it's going to be the G, right? So, next exercise is going to be to play a root fifth pattern through that chord progression. And again, you probably want to try this without a backing track. You don't want the pressure, no click, none of that stuff. So you can go through and you think, okay, C, what kind of fifth can I play here? Oh, and before I get that far, a 2 feel, like I said, is 2 notes per bar. So we're going to be playing on 1 and 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just as an example, I'll just play a root fifth pattern on that again. First 4 bars, let's say. Very laid back. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, root, fifth, okay? See why I said you need to know your notes, so you know the notes on the neck and then learn your arpeggios, because that leads to this, ultimately. So, next up, just try it without the track. So you just think C minor 7, okay, well I can play that. And then what's the next chord? F. So F, and then you have to make that choice. Do I play up to the 5th or down to the 5th? Let's go up. So I'm up at that C. Next up, what's the next chord? It's a B flat. So we play the B flat, and then, well, if we were going to play up to a 5th, we'd have to go all the way up here. So let's go down a 5th. So it's just the same fret down. Looking ahead all the time. So next chord, E flat. So play the root note, and then do we go up or down? Let's go down. Down to the 5th. Next up, A. So we could play the open A, and this is where we've got the flat 5. So we want that E flat there, the first fret of the D string. Then D, perfect 5th. So let's go up, and then G. And now let's go down, and then we've got the root note again, and then we can come up to the 5th. So again, we're just making choices. Do I go up or do I go down? Okay, and a lot of it will write itself. Like, so if I'm going up, if I think I'm on a C, I want to play up the 5th. Well, then the next note is going to be an F, and which F are we going to play? Well, you don't really have to make much of a choice, because you're not going to play this one down here. You want to play the nearest one. Okay, you want good voice leading. So when you've played that G, the F's right there next to it, so that's kind of written itself. Then if I was to come down on the 5th, next note's a B flat. Where's there a B flat? Well, there's one right there, so we'd go for that one rather than this one, okay? So like I say, you're making these choices as to whether to go up or down, but the actual root notes that you're going to go for kind of write themselves. You just go for the nearest one, okay? So this is where that journey starts coming into play, and about targeting, because you start making an overall journey. You're kind of thinking of an overall arc to the line. So if I'm thinking, okay, we'll start on the C and think, okay, I'm going to ascend C, and then I go up to the F. So I think, and then up, and then B flat, up, and I might go E flat, up. I've had this constant journey. Now, obviously, when you first start doing walking bass lines, that's the last thing you're going to be thinking about. You're not going to be thinking about the overriding arc. But once you get your hands around this, you'll be thinking, okay, dum 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 dum, and then start making your way. Oh, I've gone as far up as I want to go. Now I'll start coming down. Different things are going to influence why you want to do that, but that's what you'll be able to do. So, like I say, if I got up to the E flat and then I play that, and then A, I might start thinking, oh, let's come down. Okay, so, like I said, choices. You can stick in this one area for quite a while until you've really got it down and you really know where all those root notes are and you feel comfortable with playing the 5ths. Then what you can do, if you want to really learn your notes on your neck a little bit better, is move up into this position. So move a little bit further up. So we were down here in the 1st to the 5th fret to begin with. Go up to the 7th fret, so the first finger roughly around the 7th fret, and start picking out notes up there. So you might think, okay, well, there's a C, and bear in mind, you don't have to think one finger per fret. You can use one finger for a lot of this stuff. It's just the notes in that area. We're looking at a general region, okay? So C, and then F. This is really good for learning the notes in that no man's land kind of area. E flat, A, maybe go for a D there, G, just forcing yourself to stay in that area. B flat, just stay in that area. And then you can make a transition down into this lower area. You're thinking positionally. Again, I might start rising up. And then coming down. See, I've shifted down into that lower area. Okay, so got two areas, that area and that area, and this is a good time when you're just working on root 5th to start, working in that higher area. And like I say, you're making choices, you're targeting certain notes. You're thinking, I'm on a C, I've got that fifth, but you're already thinking about the F coming up. You know, once you know which fifth you're going to go for, which you're going to do pretty instantly, it's just going to be an intuitive thing eventually. You're looking ahead, always looking ahead. In fact, forget that it's just looking ahead. What you're actually looking at is two chords at any one time. You're looking at C minor 7 to F7. I'm not looking at C minor 7. I'm not looking at F7. I'm thinking C minor 7 to F7. Then it's F7 to B flat major 7. Then it's B flat major 7 to E flat major 7. Because you're thinking like that, in terms of the journey, you're thinking, okay, C, I've got to aim for an F. Which F am I going to move to? Okay, I'm already thinking about the fact I'm moving up to this F. And then that B flat, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll come down to the E flat, down to the A, up to the D, up to the G. Okay? Always thinking ahead like that, okay? So now we've gone from single notes, getting used to the notes, just getting used to the notes that you see on the page and applying them to the neck. Then you learn what the arpeggios are, you learn what the chord tones are. They're your resources that you're going to be working with. Forget scales and all that stuff. You know, people will say, oh, at C minor 7, that's going to be a Dorian. F7, that's going to be a Mixolydian. B flat major 7, it's going to be either a major scale or maybe a Lydian. E flat major 7, oh, Lydian for that. A minor 7 flat 5, Locrian. D7, you know, maybe an altered, a Spanish Frisian for that one because we're now in G minor and blah, 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 blah. A load of theory garbage. You don't need that. You've already been told what the chord tones are. That's there on the page. So you can rely on that. You can't rely on Spanish Frisian. Because, who's to say it is? Because it's you can work that out from like a harmony, if you know your harmony and stuff and you know about minor keys and that. But, if you've not got that far, those notes are going to work. You know that they work, okay? So that's the two feel. What we're going to talk about next. Okay, so once you've done the fifths, right, you can move on to thirds because we've already, that's one chord tone out of the arpeggio. But next you can try adding the thirds. So this is going to be a little bit different because obviously a minor 7 is going to have a minor third, a dominant 7 is going to have a major third, major 7 is going to have a major third, and a minor 7 flat 5 is going to have a minor third. So it's either going to be a major third or a minor third, but you need to know your intervals within those chords. And you also want to know what those intervals are on different strings. So, for instance, if you're on let me get here. So if we're on a C, right, and we want a major third, a major third is going to be the E, which could play there, that little pattern. A lot of you think patterns, so you're going to look at that upper string and down a fret, right? That's a major third. And then a minor third, a lot of you will be thinking of that because of minor arpeggios and things. So C to the E flat at the 6th fret. But you want to know them both on both strings. So that's a major third, that's a minor third. Okay, so C to E, so 2nd fret of the D string is the major third, 1st fret of the D string, that's the minor third. But also C to E on the same string, so C there, so 3rd fret to the 7th fret on the A string, that's a major third, and then C to the E flat, 3rd fret to the 6th fret, that's a minor third. Okay, so you know them both, okay? That comes in really handy. And you want to be able to do that for all intervals. So, again, we look at that chord progression, we think, okay, we're going to do two feel again, but just with thirds. So C minor 7, so what can we play? We play the root note for the first beat, then for beat 3, it's going to be the minor third. Then for the F7, we've got the F, and then we want a major third. Remember, it's a major third in a dominant 7 chord. And then we could play the B flat major 7 down here. I'll stick to just ascending intervals for now, okay? So we want to keep the root notes as low as we can. So it's going to mess things up a little bit. We're not going to have as smooth a line, but you'll see why in a minute. So B flat and then up to the major third, E flat, major third, A minor 7 flat 5, it's a minor third, D7, major third. So I'll just play along with the backing track again. That's why. Minor third, D7 major third, G minor 7, A minor third, and then G7 major third, C minor 7, minor third, F7 major third, B flat major 7, major third, Major third, E flat, I mean. I'll stop talking. Can you hear how it's the same kind of feel as the root fifth, but you've got the actual quality of the chord in there, and often it feels like it is actually moving up into the next chord, especially when because we've got that movement by fourth, so the third is moving into the fourth. Now the other thing to bear in mind here is that you really want to know what a third is when you drop down. So instead of just, you come in home, you get up to this and you get to the B flat and you think, oh God, what am I going to do? You don't want to be jumping up here. Let's say you want to come down to the third, just as we did with the fifth. You can play the third above, but you can also play it below. So if I'm on let's say the F, right? What we can do is, instead of playing that A there, we can actually either play it down there as that open string, or we can drop down to it on the E string. So that's a cool little thing to know, that you can go down to the third. So there's the A at the 5th fret of the E string, 3rd fret on the D string for the F, and there's that major third. That's a major third pattern. It's actually a minor 6th if you do it from the A, but okay, minor third would be that. It'd be the A flat. So okay, down onto the next string. If I were on a G, let's say, there's a major third or minor third. That's dropping down to that third. Okay, so now this time I'm going to use some of those drop ones to try and create a little bit more of a smooth line. Okay, so again, just two feel. Wait, that was the 5th. G minor down to the 3rd. So we're having to think a little bit more now. Okay, so that's another exercise. So we've now moved from root 5th, both ascending and descending, to thirds. Once you get used to doing this and really thinking on the fly, I mean, that's what we're actually doing, isn't it? We're gradually adding more thought into the actual into the line. So it begins, it's really straightforward. You're just playing the root notes that you can see. Then the 5th, that's easy. We know it's that or that. But then when you start thinking of thirds, you've really got to start thinking a little bit more. And you'll find that you get a feel for what the 5th sounds like and what the 3rd sounds like and which ones you want to go for. You'll have an instinctive feel for which one to go for. So the next step, obviously, is to mix them up. So if I was to play again, I'll just mix them up. Flat 5, 3rd, major 3rd, minor 3rd, down to the 3rd, down to the 3rd. Let's use the minor 3rd on the A minor again, major 3rd. Okay, so that's the next stage, being able to move between them, 5ths and 3rds, and just doing it instinctively. You don't really want to be thinking I mean, at first you'll have to think about it. You'll have to purposely think, okay, well, I'm going to use 3rds, I'm going to use 3rds, I'm going to use 3rds. And eventually you won't have to think about that. You'll just instinctively do it, just as you would with 5ths, okay? And then you can just mix and match, and depending on where you move into and how you want to lead into the next chord tone and stuff. But there's already quite a bit of stuff to work on just with that. Now, in the walking bass line course over at TalkingBass, remember there's a sale on at the moment, 30% off, 9th anniversary. I go through all of this step by step over a long period of time. I'm really rushing through this at the moment, so there's a lot of exercises on there. But that's the next step. Now, the step after this is to actually start adding extra notes in to the bar to move into the next chord, okay? So, for instance, we can play a root fifth, 1 and 3, and then add a note on the 4, just a chromatic leading approach note into the next chord. So this is where we start looking at targeting. It's why I was saying always look ahead at that next chord. So without a track or anything like that, I'll show you what I mean. So if I play root fifth, I'm already looking at the fact it's an F, and I've decided which F I'm going to go for, okay? So I'm thinking C to that F, okay? I've got to make that decision before I do anything. Am I going up to the F or down to the F? It's either that F or that F, okay? I've made the decision. I'm going up to the F, okay? C, so I'm going to go up fifth, and then on beat 4, I'm going to use a chromatic approach note to lead into the F, okay? So don't worry about what that means. It's just a fret above or below the next root note, and you're just going to lead into it. So because you're already looking at that F, you just think, okay, well, I can either use that one, the 4th fret, to lead into the 3rd fret, or the 2nd fret to lead into it. Or, okay? So now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're adding density to the line. We're adding notes into the bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Again, I'm looking ahead at the B flat. So I'm thinking, let's go down to the B flat. So okay, now one thing you don't want to do on a gig is just do that all the way through, because it just ends up sounding silly. With that one, and then you just don't want to do that. So basically, you want to just start adding them in sporadically. So, you know, you might do it on the first one, maybe just a 5th, and then now on that one, I played the 3rd and then the chromatic approach. So what's actually happening here when it moves by 4th is that what we're doing is either approaching from 2 frets above or 2 frets below. That's in effect what we're doing. You're either playing the 5th and then an approach note, or the 3rd and then an approach note. Now that's not to say that that's always going to happen on every chord progression, because you could have a chord progression when you're moving from C to A, and you know, the C major 7 to A minor 7, let's say, and when that happens, you're going to have to do something else. Well, actually, you can still do the 2 fret leading up into the A. But if it was something different, like to a G flat, or, you know, or modulated or something like that, you can still use the root 5th or the root 3rd, and then just use a chromatic approach note just into whatever the chord is. It could be anything, okay? So if it's a B flat you're leading to, okay, so root 5th. You know, it might sound a little bit weird on its own there, but it does work. So again, let's have a listen to that. I'll do it from below. Like I say, it's a bit more sporadic. Now, there is a good example of it. So I played A minor 7 flat 5. So I played the A, and then I played the root note. Sorry, the 5th, the flat 5. So that's the E flat there at the 6th fret of the A string, but we're leading into this D. Now I can't approach it from above, so I approached it from below, which gives us this little enclosure. So I played E flat, then D flat, D, or C sharp and D. So 6th fret, 4th fret, then the 5th fret. That's a good example of where it's not a case of or. Okay, so that's the next exercise, is to start adding in, when you want to do it, because remember, it's your choice, it's improvising, you're adding these notes in as you want, okay? So that's the next step. So that will get you through quite a lot of gigs, actually, because you can get by without playing, doing that all the time. You can actually play like that, just using root fifths, if the pressure's on and you don't want to do that. Even at a fast pace, I think I've got one here. So if it was 200 beats per minute, you could still play. You can get by with just using the root fifth through the whole thing, at that high speed, and kind of, it works. So beyond that, and also, by the way, there is another extra added bit that you can do with this. You can also just play the actual the triads in there. So how we were looking at seventh chords? Well, the first three notes of that, you can actually use those and then use a chromatic approach again into the next one. So let's take C minor 7 to F7. Okay, so you come up through the arpeggio and then use an approach note from either above or below the actual F. Okay, and then you can come up again. So you can actually use triads with chromatic notes to actually create a kind of, it's almost a hack, to be honest, for doing a walking bass line, because it will become a bit monotonous just doing that all the time. But that's a quick fire way of being able to do 4 notes in a bar. Even with the coming up the A minor 7 flat 5, if you came up through that and then use the chromatic approach note up to the D, gives you a nice jazzy line. Okay, so that's another method for doing that. Now, lastly, it's worth mentioning the whole thing, actually, when you then move into actual walking bass lines, because there's a lot to actually digest there. There's a lot to work through. That could take years, to be honest, just working on that stuff. But when you want to start really adding lines in there and really, trying to connect these chords, remember, there's a lot of pressure when you're playing along to a track or a band, because you're constantly just trying to hang on for dear life. You think C minor, F, What you can do is start building up vocabulary for it. And that really starts to take the pressure off, to be honest, especially if you've practiced a tune for quite a while. So something like Autumn Leaves, when you've got the movement by fourth, this is just as an example of how this works. When you've got chord progression root movement by fourth, so C to F, that's a perfect fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, C to F. F to B flat, B flat to E flat to A, that's still kind of movement by fourth, that's a sharp 4, but don't worry about that for now. D to G, A to D, D to G, okay? That's all movement by fourth. So that line I told you about earlier on, we're basically just coming up with, 3 approach notes to the next note, actually. But we're coming up a scale, so we're coming up, in this case, you could call it Dorian, so C, D, E flat, and then using a chromatic approach into the F. You don't have to worry about what the theory is behind it, because you could sit there analysing this stuff till the cows come home. But you just learn it as a line. I think that line works over minor 7. Okay? Up by a fourth. So when you see a chord moving minor 7 to F7, a 2-5 basically, you know you can do that. You know, it's just a line. It's a melodic phrase you can use that works, okay? You don't even have to think. You're not having to think of arpeggios. You're not having to think of anything. You're just thinking of that line. It works. The cool thing about that line, especially if you learn it along one string as well, so I'll just tell you the frets just so that you can, in case you can't see. C, 3rd fret of the A string, and then we've got open D string, then 1st fret, 2nd fret, and 3rd fret. So C, D, E flat, E, F, okay? You also want to know it moving up here, so C, D, E flat, E, F, so 3rd, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th frets on the A string. That's 2 ways of doing it, and just knowing that when you've played that, you're at the next root note, okay? So for movement on a minor 7 to over a minor 7 chord, over a major 7 chord, over a dominant 7 chord, it'll work on all of those just because of the way that the scales and stuff work. So I can actually play through that chord progression using that exact line like this. So if I played up C to the F and then use the same line, we're on the B flat, use it again. And then it doesn't work getting us to the A, I know. But if you, let's say that you just come up through the arpeggio, if we're on the A, the A minor 7 flat 5, for a minor 7 flat 5, there's another one that you can use. So use a flat second on this because it's basically a Locrian that we're using. So A, B flat, if we're coming up one string, A, B flat, and then the C, and then the D flat, and then the D. So you could do it like that, or you could come up, how would we do it up here? So it's basically the same thing, but you just actually use a flat second instead of a major second. So you can play it like that or like that. You know, if you think about it in terms of notes, it's a lot easier. But you're basically using a flat second instead of the major second when you're on the minor 7 flat 5. But that's another ascending line. So think about this. We've got a line there that's good for moving up by 4th. So now we've got two lines. We've got one for the minor 7 flat 5, and we've got one for all the minor 7 flat, dominant 7 and major 7, right? Only problem is, if you just use an ascending line, you're going to keep going up and up and up and up until you come off the fretboard. So then you need something for coming down. So what you can do then is, let's say that we're on the C, and you want to, and it's movement by 4th again, C to F. You can just come down through the scale. Now you kind of have to know your scales for this: Dorian, Mixolydian, major. Okay. But whatever the chord scale is for that chord, you just come down it, and it just so happens 1, 2, 3, 4, it lands us on the right one. So that means we've got an ascending line, and we got a descending line. So if I was to work, let's say I come down first, C down to the F. I just came down through the scale, and then I use the good old to come up to the B flat. That's the line that we had, and then maybe again, and then we could use it. We could come down onto the A, come up, maybe down again. Sorry. Now that's one of the problems that you're going to have there. I used a major 6 there. You'd really want to use a flat 6th on there because it's the root of the minor. But again, this is all going to get into chord scales and all of that stuff, which I want to avoid for now because we're just looking at the basics of the journey. You can learn all the theory stuff and all of that separate, but really you're just looking for vocabulary. You're looking for a melodic line that works in that context. Minor 7 to, or movement by 4th, going up. Movement by 4th, coming down. That's what you want. And once you've got that and you've got a line, you can start learning other lines. Like there's many different ways that you'll be able to go up, and there's many different ways that you come to. Well, there's not actually that many. That's the thing. You'll see the same lines used over and over again. And if you actually start looking at transcriptions of walking bass lines, you will see the same lines being used again and again and again. It's all about vocabulary. And the good thing about these chromatic lines is that they're nice and smooth. So if I don't want 200 beats per minute. Let's try that 100 again. So you'll hear it's a smooth line. Down. Actually switches to a G7, so that should have been mixolydian in there. But you get the idea. You learn vocabulary. You learn different lines for going up and different lines for coming down. And the more of these that you learn and the more that you try applying them to chord progressions like this, maybe over backing tracks or not even over backing tracks, just away from the tracks, the easier it's going to become to actually start developing that walking kind of instinct. And then you can start thinking about, oh, I'm going to go all the way up, I'm going to come down, all the way down. You think about the arc. So I'll leave it there for the walking because I've covered a lot of stuff there. And really, if you're new to walking, the earliest stuff in this is actually the more important stuff. Like I said, you really, really need to know the notes on your neck. If you don't know the notes on your neck, forget it. You're not going to be able to do it. You want to know a little bit about intervals. You want to know the arpeggios. You need to learn about chord tones. And then you need to start working on vocabulary, these basic lines. I mean, I used to have a night class I used to teach about 20 years ago when I started teaching a group of bass players how to play walking bass lines. And basically, I just taught them these lines. I just taught them vocabulary because it was going to take too long to actually sit there going through a lot of the chord tones and stuff. I just wanted them to start playing something. So I just started showing them these and learn a line, learn how to move it from one place to the next, moving from that position to that position and back. Do I go up? Do I come down? So, yeah, that's a bunch of exercises to work on. Single notes through it, then root fifth. Well, play the chord tones, learn the chord tones, learn the arpeggios. Root fifth, it's two feel. Root third, two feel. Mix them up, start adding an approach note in there, and then work on your vocabulary. It's a lot to work on, and like I said, I kind of learned this on the fly doing it in a band. But you know, you can work on it in your own time like this. You're probably better to do that, to be honest. And I'd advise using Band in a Box if you've got it for the backing tracks. That can create nicer backing tracks like that, or you can use iReal-B, the Real Book thing that you can get the app online, you know, on your phone. And there's a bunch of them on well, you can put the chord progression in yourself, or you can. I think there's a download link, and then you can just get all of the chord progressions from the Real Book. If you don't know about the Real, I haven't got it sat here, but the Real Book is like a massive book full of jazz standards with chords, songs like Autumn Leaves in there. So that's it for the walking part of this. Like I said, remember that there's the sale on over at Talking Bass. So for the walking course, which is huge, it goes through all of this stuff and a lot more. I get into modal jazz and all kinds of stuff in that. And it's all on offer. It's on sale, 30% off for the 9th anniversary sale. Just in case you missed it at the start, this is the 9th anniversary of Talking Bass, so we've been out for 9 years. So now, look at this. Best adult dating. Jeez. Hold on. Hide user on this channel. Let's get rid of those. Yes. So annoying, isn't it? They've started infiltrating all of the bigger YouTube channels. As soon as you put something out, you get these idiots putting spamming all the porn stuff. Hide user on this channel. I swear I need a moderator, don't I, for this? Okay, so there's going to be a lot of comments, so I won't go through everything. I won't be answering best adult dating site. I'll just go up a little bit. Oh, Ellen's here. Hello, Ellen. Must be roasting no matter what. I can see your knees. Yeah, I've got shorts on. It is hot in here at the moment, and I've got the window open. So I'll just have a quick scan through these, see if Yeah, video is going to be available. Yeah, it'll be available as soon as it's finished. Some people had temporary freezing on the video. Andrew said, better to think actual notes of the chords or interval shapes. I do both. I see, when I'm thinking in terms of arpeggios, scales, all that kind of stuff, I know the notes on the neck incredibly well. I know the notes of the chords and the scales, but I also know the kind of the patterns. It's very difficult to avoid patterns. I know that a lot of people will say, oh, you just want to know the notes, but that's harder to do than you think. Like, the minute that you start playing through, like, I do see that minor 7 as just that fretboard pattern, to be honest. I know what the notes are in it. I know it's E, G, B flat. You see E flat, G, B flat for a C minor 7. I know what the notes are. I can see the notes under my fingers, but there's no getting around it that I can see the actual pattern that I'm playing. It's a geometric shape on the neck. You know, but the ideal thing is to be able to see both, because then if you're moving up, you can just, you know, if I'm there and I'm coming up through a C minor 7, for instance, and I'm on the C, E flat, G, there's a B flat next. I know there is. So instead of thinking, oh, I've got to learn some pattern that comes up this string, I just think B flat and just play it, you know. So that's the ideal, is for everything, but it's good to know the actual note. Yeah, I would say it's vital to know the chords, the notes of the chords, and the intervals. How's the new baby doing, Mark? Well, he's getting on a bit now. He's nearly 2, so he'll be 2 in a few. When is it? It'll be next month, I think. And yeah, he's doing great, Jensen. He's a good laugh. I've heard other teachers say they're thinking scale tones, not notes. 5th, flat, 7th, rather than G, B, flat. All of them. You need to know the chord construction principles, but you also want to know the notes. Think about what a pianist would do. If you're ever having you know, thinking about what you should be learning and what's best, and oh, but this person says this person says that. Think about what a pianist or a sax player or somebody like that. Think about what they learn when they do this. If they, you know, when a pianist learns a chord, if they learn a C major 7 chord, they know what the notes are in that chord. They see the pattern of the fingers and the pattern of the but they're not thinking, just a pattern all the time. They know what those notes are. They know that C major 7 is C, E, G, B, C, E, G, B. The thing to do is learn what your triads are first. You know, C, E, G for a C major. Know that A, C sharp E is an A major, and D, F sharp A is a D major. Spelling drills, that's one of the ways to do it. It is harder for bass players, especially if you don't know notes on your neck that well when you're first starting out. Pianist, it's all there on piano, so you're doing it right from word go. But I know a lot of people don't have like traditional training, so they don't have that luxury. But I found that spelling drills are pretty good for that, so that you just go through them in your head or say them out loud, work through them. C, E, G, right? Just go through the natural ones first. C, E, G, that's C major. What's D? So D, F sharp A. Think D, F, A. DFA, I don't know if you know about DFA faders on a mixer. If you know anything about DFA faders, does all. So DFA, so D, F sharp A. So it's a sharp in the middle of that one. D, F sharp A. E, G sharp B. And then FAC for that spells a word. So you got that straight off. So FAC. Just say it out loud. GBD for G, and then AC sharp E for A major, and then B major's B, D sharp, F sharp. And you just go around them. Then once you've done those, it's easy to do the sharps because you just sharpen them. So so if you know that C major is C, E, G, what's C sharp major? It's C sharp, E sharp, and G sharp. You know, What's C flat? It's C flat, E flat, G flat. You just flatten or sharpen them. It's a bit like learning what the natural notes are first on the neck, and then learning what the flats and sharps are. You know, once you know the naturals, it's a lot easier. So learn your major triads, then learn your minor triads, and then you can start adding the sevenths in there. And then once you know that, C, E, G, B for a C major 7. And then what would it be for a D major 7? It'd be D, F sharp, A. That's your major triad. What's the major 7th? It's a C sharp. D, F sharp, A, C sharp. So you can start working on... you can just do those when you just sat around doing nothing. You know, instead of looking at, you know, whatever on your phone. Going to Pornhub or whatever. You can just sit there working through your arpeggios. Adam says it's a bit like playing billiards, always planning a few shots ahead. That is true. That is what it's like. No one expects the Spanish Frisian. The Spanish Frisian is also called the Frisian dominant. It's the 5th mode of the harmonic minor. So what happens is that when you're in a... just as a little aside, just in case you're wondering about harmonic minor and all that kind of stuff, the harmonic minor generally comes into play as a consequence of a chord progression. So if you're in C minor, right, chord 1 would be C minor, and then chord 5, if we were just in a natural minor scale, chord 5 would be G minor. But what you'll find is that that G in a minor key is turned into a major, so that you get a perfect cadence. So okay, so it generally turns to a dominant 7 or a major chord for chord 5. Because of that, we get a major 7th in the key. If you think C natural minor, that B flat gets turned into a B natural. And that is where the harmonic minor comes into play. It's why it's called the harmonic minor. It's about harmony. People always think it's like some it's about melody. Oh, yeah. You know, like it's some... Oh, that's what makes things sound classical. No, it's because the chord 5 is being turned into a major chord. So it's not that somebody's thinking, no classical composer thought, I'm going to use the harmonic minor scale. They didn't think that. It was just that they were turning the chord 5 into a major, so that there was that pull to the tonic. Now, if you're wanting to play a chord scale to demonstrate, to play that, to outline that chord 5 being a major, it just so happens it's going to be the 5th mode of that harmonic minor, and the 5th mode of the harmonic minor is the Frisian dominant or Spanish Frisian, which is... So on a G it would be that G, that A flat, that B, C, D, and then so it's basically a mixolydian with a flattened 2nd and a flattened 6th. I know a lot of you that will just go over your heads and it means nothing, but it is a pretty legit thing. I mean, it's just that it's to do with turning that chord into a major, and it just has all those consequences to it. So that's that. Right, so I'll go down to because I'm not going to hang around too long now. God, we're getting more of these damn sex sites. Let me get them off. This is where I need a moderator. Hide user on this channel. Get the hell out of here. Could you provide this backing track for download? Yeah, I'll tell you what I'll do. Tomorrow, I won't be able to do it now. It's getting late, but I'll make a web page for this actual live streaming. I'll put the backing track up. If I don't end up doing that, if I forget, which is likely, drop me an email and I'll do it. But I just know what I'm like. I'll just I'll just forget, won't I? You got Usman or Britt Leon Edwards? Usman, Kamaru Usman. As sad as that I have to be to say that, because Leon Edwards is a Brit, but yeah, Kamaru Usman's going to just maul him. I won't be surprised if he knocks him out. I think that's the general consensus. Richard Bruce Music, your accent is not nearly as bad as that guy with the gloved hand, and I'm not referring to Michael Jackson. We've got the same accent, me and Scott. We're both from the same place. If me and him, when me and him are sat chatting, right, we do sound pretty similar. Your sight reading course is helping with notes on the neck. Thank you. That will happen. That is the best way to learn the notes on the neck. If you want to learn the notes on your neck, you just need to learn to read. Once you've done that, job done. Chord Tone Essentials is a great course for all. Thank you very much. I already got to the root and fifth walking around, but it keeps sounding like elevator jazz music. Yep, it will do. It depends on what the context is, doesn't it? It's like if you're going to play Girl from Ipanema, it's going to sound like Girl from Ipanema. It's always going to sound like elevator music. It's not going to sound like Meshuggah, is it? Thanks, John. Thanks for this. Walking has been the most difficult thing for me to get a firm grasp on. I get it conceptually, but the application in real time has been a monster. It is. It's because of the pressure. Because you're always having to, you're having to think every single note. But that's where the vocabulary comes in. Because if you've got it so that you can think, you know, I didn't think then at all. I wasn't, I mean, I'm just thinking C, F, and B flat, and just putting the notes in there. You know, you just get used to those lines. It's learning lines. Yes, it's important to learn about the roots, fifths, thirds, all of that stuff, how to do, you know, all of that thing. But then eventually it just starts to become you're learning lines that connect. What, in your opinion, distinguishes a band from being merely good to being exceptional? Nothing really. Never thought of Scales as being more satisfying than Pornhub. It's all these porn sites coming and doing the bots doing this stuff. It's throws you off. Ah, right, okay. Richard with the Spanish Frisian being a Monty Python reference. Okay. Which I didn't get, which I should, because I'm a Python fan and a Brit. Starting to get to grips. This is C. Van Het Car. Starting to get to grips with notes, triads, and chords a bit now, but then I read about inversions of scales and I get all lost with that. So not modes. Don't know what an inversion of a scale would be. I mean, it'd be a scale coming down. I mean, you can invert scales. There is a thing to that, but I don't know if you're actually meaning scale inversions. It's when you switch the actual. So when you take the intervallic construction in a sense and you actually switch it going down, because some scales are actually palindromic like that. When performing the run-up from A minor 7 flat 5 to E7, what intervals are people playing? Well, that's... do you mean up to D7? That is where you take that same line, right? That A, which if we were doing the A minor 7 one, it'd be A, B, C, C sharp, D. Okay? But instead of the B, you play B flat, which you can play right next to it. Oops. So it becomes that. So 5th fret, 6th fret on the E string, and then 3rd, 4th, and 5th fret on the D string, A string. It's just that when I first showed it, I was actually doing it up one string, so that you could actually see it, you know, because we were moving into that higher area. But when you're just playing it down here, you can just play that. It's a bit tougher when you come down because you've got to think Locrian. So you'd be coming down A, G, F, then the E flat, and then the D. So you've got this pretty funky line actually in descent. Do you think bass is a good instrument for composing? I was thinking about starting to play piano too. It can be. It depends. I mean, most people that are going to be serious songwriters are going to be wanting to probably come more from a piano perspective, because everything ends up being a bit riffy based if you play bass like that. But you can do it with chords, you know. But Mark, did you move to Houston? No, we abandoned the move for one of many, many different reasons, but we've also just bought a house. So first house I've ever bought, I've been renting all my life, and gradually, eventually we found a house that we can renovate. It's absolutely like a bomb site. But so for the next year or so, I'm just going to be, covered in dust. But it's all right. But there were a bunch of reasons for not going through with the move to Houston. One of the main ones was actually the nature of the visa, because we couldn't get a green card on the visa that I was going for. And eventually I started thinking, hold on, the kids are going to get settled, we're going to get settled, and then the business is going to finish at some point. When I retire, I'm going to have to come home. I'm going to have to come back to England. So I was thinking, that's going to be a right pain. But there was a bunch of other things as well. You and Scott sound similar. Yeah, we're very similar. I mean, I'm guessing you all know that me and Scott are good friends. I knew Scott in the mid-90s. Well, when did I first meet him? 98, I think it was. 98. We were doing a post-grad together, like a jazz postgraduate degree. I'd just finished my degree at Leeds. I finished in 98, and then I went to do that in... actually, it was 99. It was 99 because I finished in 98, and then I didn't start that until 99. And he was the other bass player on the course. It was me and Scott. And so we were... ironically, I remember sitting there playing Autumn Leaves with him. We were taking turns for each chorus. And he just built this massive 6-string bass, because he was a luthier before he was a bass player, and it was like this killer bass that he'd got. But yeah, that was in Wakefield College. So we both sound the same. He's actually from Carlisle, which is further north. That's up near where the Lake District is and that. So he's closer to Scotland. But he's developed a bit of a Yorkshire accent, to be honest. So we're both talking a bit of a Yorkshire accent. But yeah, actually, twang. My Yorkshire accent has dissipated quite a lot because I now live on the Isle of Wight. But when I start talking like this is a bit more like I used to be. Jon Snow. Did you study with Jeff Berlin? No. Phil Mann did. I know Jeff quite well. You've probably seen the 3 interviews that I've done with him. But no, I didn't study with him. But we have very similar outlook on traditional kind of training. Nope, I've not used the Fender Vibe bass. That's to goose. I'm going to be quick whipping down these now because I need to get back. If you like Bill Burr, you'll dig Andrew Schultz. Check his special out. Yeah, I'm a massive Bill Burr fan. I met him a few years ago when he came to Royal Albert Hall, which was cool. I've got a nice picture with him. Yeah, I love Bill Burr. And a couple of nights ago, we went to see Derren Brown in Bournemouth, and that was phenomenal. I saw him on his first tour that he ever did in about 2002, 2003. And I've not seen him again since. I've always been gigging or busy. But, I adore Derren. He's amazing. And so we went to watch him a couple of nights ago, me and the missus, and that was phenomenal. I'll just whip through. Thank you, everybody that's giving nice compliments. I'm just blasting through this as fast as I can now. Mark, I love mixing chords with arpeggios and bass. How do I temper the chords when playing so that I do not overplay the rhythm section? There's no real answer to that. You just have to. Everything's contextual, really. With that, you just have to be aware of it and sometimes not do it. I mean, there's not much of an answer really. You have to think about the arrangement and think about. Here's a good little tip to everybody when you're playing on stage. try to listen to the band as if you're in the audience. Don't listen to yourself. Don't listen to your bass. Listen to your bass, but listen to it as an ensemble. I remember when I started running my own band, and so I was a band leader for quite a few years, and I'd be writing these arrangements, and then we'd come to play them on stage, and we'd be just running them on stage on a night, to the audience. And of course, I'm playing bass, but I'm thinking more about what the keys are playing, and the vocals, and the drums that I've written out, and all that stuff. And I wasn't thinking about what the bass was at all. I was just doing what I do. But what I was really doing is listening to the arrangement as a whole. And basically what you're doing when you do that is you're hearing it as if you're in the audience. That's what you want to do, because if you think too much about what you're doing, that's when you can start becoming busy. That's when you can start putting in things that aren't really needed, or getting in the way of things. And if you're hearing it as an ensemble as a whole, you're generally going to play less, to be honest, and not put fills in all over the place and stuff like that. Just hear it as if you were in the audience. Hear the ensemble as a whole. Phil Mann, he played bass in my band. Oh yeah. I know Phil well. I always see him when I go to the bass shows and things, and he works with Scott a lot. He's lovely, Phil. I've met him loads of times, loads and loads of times. We chat on the phone sometimes. And he was taught by Jeff over in Florida at the Players School. Did you ever study Ron Carter bass lines in college? Not in. Yes, I did actually. What am I talking about? My bass teacher used to bring them in sometimes. But I've got a book of Ron Carter bass lines over there somewhere. Yeah, I better get back, actually, because I'm going to miss Anthony Joshua against Usyk. I was thinking, this will be great. I can finish, and then I can go and see the end of that. He probably won't be on until about 10:30, though. It ends up being on so late. Right, I'll be very, very quick. Just look at the last ones. How can we support the channel if full courses are a bit expensive for now? Oh, you don't have to support the channel. Thing to do is just save up and then get a course, or just sign up for the free membership and just take part. There's no, you don't need to pay me. And there's a sale on right now. Right, I'll get moving. So we've got 200 people watching at the moment. That's incredible. So if you've seen, if you missed half of the lesson, which is hour and 40 minutes. I've been doing it now. So we just worked through walking bass lines, getting started on them, and the steps required to get to a point where you can actually improvise a line. And so I outlined all of that. And so when I finish now, this will stay live on the channel, so you'll be able to watch through the whole thing. But if you're interested in doing any of that, I go much more in depth with the Simple Steps to Walking Bass course over at Talking Bass. So if you want to get into that, just go over, and there's the sale on at the moment. Like I said, it's the 9th anniversary of Talking Bass, so woohoo! And like I said, it's because it's my daughter. I started because my daughter was born. I always know how old the channel is because I know how old she is. So I think, she's 9. It's 9, So next year is going to be the 10th anniversary, which is nuts. I can't believe that I've been doing this 10 years now. So yeah, I'll get moving, and it's been great to talk to you all, and I might do another one of them before the week is out. So so check out your emails. If you're not signed up if you don't get emails from me telling you when these things are, sign up to the website. You get instantly put onto the email list, and then you'll be able to see when I'm doing when I release a video, when I do a live hang, all of that stuff. Just sign up to that. That's where that comes into play. And if you're not signed up to obviously, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, then do that. But just sign up to the website. It's free membership. You just sign up, and there's forum in there, all that stuff. Tons of free downloads and free stuff. There's even a free course in there. So go check that out. And and I will see you all later.